incredible skill and talent is just completely ignored in this day and age, especially in the land of writing. And of course, in regards to this particular story, nothing could be closer to the truth. Greetings, YouTubers of the world. I am Arcanum Fantasy, and today I bring you one of my absolute, without a doubt, favorite MLP fan fictions. And I'm talking a fanfic that I believe, hell, a fanfic series that should be considered FimFiction's permanent top 20, if not top 10, hell, top 5. It is the fanfic known as Foal of the Forest, the first story of the Savage Sky series, written by Mo Gura. This fanfiction is it's incredibly intricate. I've rarely ever read natural-born novels that are as well put together and intricately woven so well. As it stands, there are only maybe a small handful of fanfics out there that I believe are written to this story's caliber. Prime examples being My Past Sins as one of the most infamous, and the Magic Library as another, which unfortunately is not complete and therefore I cannot do a review on, so I eagerly await the day that the writer of that fic finishes their work as well. However, this is not I'm not here to talk about Magic Library. I'm here to talk about Foal of the Forest, and unfortunately, I wish I could go into detail about the other fanfics within this series. Unfortunately, doing so would end up being unnecessarily spoiling to the other, well, equally impressive writing styles within the series. So, unfortunately, I'll have to just settle for the first story. Anyway, the story pretty much starts off with Fluttershy getting lost in the Everfree Forest and chased by timberwolves. It is then that she is saved by a young foal named Dawn Lightwing, who just happens to be living in the forest because of being ostracized for his eyes, which, thanks to a cult that Celestia neither supports or wants to completely destroy, at least not yet, claims them to be the eyes of Nightmare, and as such are evil and pretty much the sign of him being a demon. And as such, the members of this cult want to kill him. Well, unfortunately for them, he practices a martial art called the Gale Wing style, which essentially is the MLP equivalent of airbending, even to the point of controlling electricity, but that's a little bit beyond this point in the series. Anyway, Fluttershy decides to take him in, and of course, a pony that has been pretty much almost killed over a small physical defect will not necessarily be very trusting of other ponies. I mean, hell, he considered living in the Everfree Forest to be a much more preferable situation than living in, well, among other ponies. In addition, he begins giving Scootaloo advice and tips on how to fly using the Gale Wing style. And also has some interesting interactions with Applejack. Of course, as I've mentioned earlier, this is one of the many different points in the story that are interwoven. Here's how I see it. Generally, stories have an A plot, a B plot, C, D, and all the way to Z. And usually these different plots have nothing to do with each other. In Savage Skies, let alone the first story, Foal of the Forest, all of the different plots intermingle, twist, and, well, work. There's honestly no main single plot, even within the first story. There are at least 3, and they're all combined almost into one solid plot all by itself. This is extremely rare, and only one series of normal novels has ever actually did this, in my opinion, and that would happen to be the Harry Potter series. This story also doesn't leave any characters just as a one-scene wonder. In other words, if you've got Pinkie Pie in the story, she's going to make an appearance consistently throughout the story. Dawn makes an appearance, a consistent appearance within the story. And so on and so forth, including several OCs, which are all very well put together and extremely intricate in their own rights. This story it's beyond me to be able to give a complete examination of, because trying to dissect it as I have done with countless fanfics in the past is almost impossible. If anything, I could say that this is without a doubt how the story could have gone for the main canon at any random point. Essentially, if the writer had actually been chosen to write the main story for MLP instead of Lauren Faust, I believe this is actually what we consider main canon. Well, minus the blood and gore. Yes, a few stories in the series tend to be rather bloody, but not to the point that you would, hear them being considered grimdarks. More like, someone gets their hoof chopped off kind of thing, but not by some homicidal serial killer, but by an opposing enemy in a fight. The writer also introduces the concept of trans-dimensional magic, which is not something I can easily describe, let alone write, and he or she has my complete condolences for the mental damage they had to put themselves through to come up with all of the descriptions. To give you an idea, try to describe what happens when a portal opens up in a world right in front of you, and then describing it bending in various angles and making it completely detailed. That is what this guy had to do with the major antagonist and cult leader of this group called the Cult Solace. Yes, this antagonist is bizarre in his own right as well. I don't think I've met too many, or rather seen too many villains that are as out there as this particular character. I'm not going to give away too much, but let's just say there's evil, and then there's the absence of good. That is Morningstar, and he's a character you have to read to believe. Trust me on this one. Now, what I like or dislike about this fanfic. In other words, my issues with it. Let's go to spelling. Well, there's a couple spelling errors, but not to the point where it would end up having to be, decoded. I can, in other words, read it just fine. There are a couple broken sentences here and there, but what do you expect from a fanfic that's got well over 20 chapters to it? Grammar is, aside from broken sentences, pretty much perfect and very well analyzed in a sense. Then we have pacing, which is really perfect, actually. It's rare that you find a fanfic that doesn't either go way too fast or just meanders about, just kind of dragging its feet. This one doesn't have that problem. It goes as far as it needs to and doesn't extend beyond that. There's maybe the occasional off error, but again, large fanfic. That's bound to happen anyway. Name overload? Not really any of it. Most characters are actually described by their coat coloring and main type, or just simply by their status, and that's it. As such, there is no name overload error. Although I will admit it is difficult in some dialogue scenes to determine who is saying what. So there is that, but aside from that, their name issues isn't even existent in this one. All in all, I give Foal of the Forest of the Savage Skies series written by Mogura a solid 10 out of 10. If it were to have had all of these previously mentioned errors fixed, it would have been given a platinum 11. And believe me, I don't hand those out just to anyone. So, with all that said, I can highly recommend this fanfic to anyone who's interested in watching it or reading it. And with that, I can only add this. Like, comment, subscribe if you like my channel and my videos, and if you're feeling particularly generous and want to support me and the Infinity Library, stop by my Patreon account and leave a small donation. After all, every little bit helps. Also, don't be afraid to stop by my own account on FimFiction and give your own opinions on my own fanfics. After all, I'm always open for ways to improve my own skills, as well as the skills of other young, aspiring writers out there. So, with that, have fun, enjoy your day, and sleep well.